Hi there ladies and gents, back here again for another unboxing, this time of the Mantic stroke River Horse game Loka by Alessio Cavatori, the same guy that did Kings of War and Warpath most recently. So as you can see, the front of the box, quite a nice, sets the tone. As you can see, there's the four different elements, being elemental strategy. Look at the back, we can see the content. You can see obviously there's the four different armies, I'll say for now. Fire, earth, air and water, a couple of dice, and the board, which we'll get more into. So let's get inside. Standard chessboard there, that's not really what we were expecting to see. But you'll also notice, and it mentions it in the book later on, that the edges are flush. So if you wanted a bigger game of Loka, I suppose, rather than just chess, it can be done. So on the other side, that looks more like what we were expecting. It's the four areas to bring in the four different armies, color coded for each army, I suppose. So put the board to the side for now. So right, as you can see, four different lots of models, a rulebook, some tiles, and some dice. So we've got the book here. Let's have a look at that first, get that out of the way. Yep, as we suspected, the four different colours coordinate to the four different elements, the core rules, deployment areas. Obviously, as you can see, there's red pawn promotion, so it promotes just like chess. And then we go into the game sequences. A point to note on this page, as you can see, each piece has got a point cost. That's because it's not just it's not just chess and a set army list. You can choose what you want, so you can have an elite army of queens as such, or you can go for an all-out pawn army essentially. One king, yeah, we must always have a king because that's the whole point. Oh, there you go, so you can only have a maximum of 10 pawns, but that's not bad in this size game. Maximum amount 16 pieces, and then we've just got a little example army, 160 points. And then they've been so nice to paint a so I forgot a fire, earth, wind. I'm guessing, yeah, the earth army. Sorry. Very nice for those that follow Kings of War. You can certainly see what could be happening in the future for the force of nature. Terrain. So you've got the terrain there, how to set it up, and also explains what it does during the game. So each terrain tile has different effects for different pieces. Deploying the armies, all the rules for that. How to fight, because it's not just you don't just take a piece like you would in chess, for instance. Each advantage you have, or each advantage or disadvantage, as it could be as well, you have over the piece you're attacking. You move up a dice. So if it's an even fight, you'd be on a d4, d6, d8, d12, then something called a super d20, which can't quite remember off the top of my head, but sounds super. There we go. Outcomes of combat. So as you can see, there's a piece there, it's getting supported by other pieces. And then you've got some, there we go, the super d20 rules. Back to back, it's just basic chess rules of things you can do. Special rules for if a king against a king. The advancing it. Variants to it, so as we said there, you've got 2-player Loka because it's designed as a 4-player game. 3-player Loka, the normal chessboard variants of it, and then the army sets they sell to. As we said, it's a list-based game, and you get essentially enough to make a small force, but not a great variation. So if you want to add to that, they're just showing you there what you do get. And then what's excellent is you've got the rules of chess. So most people picking it up would have a grasp of the game of chess, but if not, there you go. The rules of chess in there, including all the other more difficult moves, castling and things like that. en passant and things like that. And then a special thanks to all the Kickstarters, which is nice. Back of the board, and then, as Alessio always likes to do, there's a little map showing you what you're fighting over, essentially. So let's get on to the more interesting stuff. Like we said, there's the terrain tiles, you just pop them out and place them on the board. The dice, you've got different dice depending on each part. And let's get on to the figures. So we'll do the Earth Army first. So let's start on the basics. We've got the pawns here, so there's 4 pawns, and they're designed to be like little gnomes. This, coincidentally, is also, I believe, the same kind of material they're going to make the Dreadball Extreme miniatures out. As you can see, it's a softer plastic with slight bend to it, but it's not ridiculously bendy. And as you can see, the details are still there. So you've got 4 gnome-like figures as your pawns. The knight there, portrayed by this centaur, very nice. You know, as you say, for the Kings of War, Force of Nature, centaurs are a part, and that looks a good start at least to what could be a great Kings of War army. The rook, each of the rooks of the armies are sort of like an elemental. So this is like an earth elemental. You know, he looks the part of a rook essentially, I suppose. And the bishop is played by this druid, quite a leaf, nimble character. And the queen, you know, she's quite big and imposing, and definitely a silhouette, a nice little silhouette of, you know, you'll certainly notice that on the table. And finally the king, sat on his throne, struggling to focus a bit, but there we go, he's sat there. So that's the nature side of things. Fire. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 4 pawns again. Yeah, these look a bit like sort of goblins, I suppose, if I could guess at anything. But you know, as you can see, similar kind of outline going on as the Force of Nature pawns. So 4 of them. The knight, it's like a sort of griffin kind of thing. Well, it's like a dark Pegasus, man, I don't know. He's breathing fire there. The rook, this time it's like a fire elemental bound by brass rings, I suppose. That normally goes with fire, I suppose. The bishop for them, it's like a Swami, I suppose I think they're called. Like a druid, yeah, fire druid. The queen again, see, if you notice, there's a running trend of the sort of silhouette you're expecting, so you can't really mistake the queen. They are quite, they've all got that sort of splayed arms, big feel about them. This one's kind of like a Medusa with a serpent body and flamed hair. And the king, yet again, same kind of silhouette, sat on his throne of fire. Nice chunky models. That's the fire done. Next on to air. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pawns again. The air elementals. There's sort of a very regal feel about these, like a very bird avian feel. We've got the sword and the shield again, as we've just seen as the early ones. The knight, sorry, as the griffin. Quite a nice piece, suits the air olives, definitely. The rook, this time as an air elemental. As I was saying with the Kings of War armies earlier, they all have elementals. So you know, each of the 4 elementals, in fact, so these could be what we're expecting to see, like a tornado there. The bishop, so it looks like got like a Radagast-y, Gandalf the Grey kind of feel about him, his standard kind of wizard. Nice little piece. Queen again. Sort of looks a bit angelic this time around. Yellow is really struggling on this camera, I'm afraid. But yeah, same kind of silhouette. And then the king, obviously, sat on his throne. Again, and just to finish off, just do the armies of water, I believe this element, yep. So, there we go. So, bizarrely these are skeletal figures. I'm not sure the symbolicness of water, but you know, I didn't make the game. The way the game plays in a 4-player is the fire and water are allied armies, with the earth and the air allied together. So I suppose the fire and water showing the destructive nature there, so they are the evil forces, whereas the earth and wind are sort of growth kind of things. You know, we're sort of getting onto the constructive. I'm guessing that's the idea behind them. So they're symbolising death. The knight for them is like an undead Pegasus. So very nice skeletal figure. The elemental, it's not really showing off water but ice in fact, so I'll let them off on that one. Quite a nice piece, quite solid. You got good sharp edges. And the bishop, sort of like a Grim Reaper-y kind of necromancer. No, nice. Good lines on that. Queen, she's sort of like a bit like she's definitely got an undead feel about her. There's definitely a lot of bones about it, but I don't know mythology enough, I suppose, to nail that one down. And then the king, sort of like it looks like a kind of leech lord on his undead throne. Not quite sure on the water symbology again, but nice little figures. And so that's everything you get in the box. And interesting to note that if you were to play it as chess, you do have enough pieces to play. Obviously, these would form, say for instance, the white army, and these would form the black army. So you have, you know, a stunning chess set really, and nothing's stopping you painting them. As I said, the same kind of plastic that DBX is planned for. So you know, you should be able to prime and undercoat them, and you obviously could just paint these, you know, the red and the blue army as one, and the earth and wind army as one, and there'd be nothing stopping you doing that. I probably will get round to painting them, because the way they've shown them on the box, you know, for instance the air army there, it's got a really nice look about them. And I reckon they'd certainly take well to painting, which is an interesting point I had with someone recently at Boston Wargaming Club, talking about the Dreadball models. As we were talking about, this is the new material for the DBX, or similar to the new material, that it's got a fine line between the detail you need and the detail required for painting. Too often the sharp lines of, say for instance, Games Workshop, excellent for wargaming, you know, whereas Dreadball being, you know, not beating about the bush, a board game essentially, with lots of handling, you don't want to be going too fine, whereas it's set the right line for helping your paint jobs rather than hindering them. So that's all I've got today. Thank you very much.